GameFi or gaming on Cardano. Like you mentioned that I bought this land on this game using an NFT, and yeah, I can talk more about that. And smart contracts about Cardano. Like
yeah, it's about 8 weeks old.
Yeah, it's really new, and obviously it's a completely different paradigm. So that's what I like about learning these things, because it's hopefully it's a new shift in the way we think how smart contracts work and how it should be written. And probably more about right now, there's not a lot of stuff other than mostly NFTs on Cardano. So for like DAOs, it's actually still quite limited. But
yeah, like you couldn't do Constitution DAO, like when they were trying to buy the Constitution, whatever, 2 weeks ago. Like I was looking through at the tools that they use. One was like Juicebox, and the other one was it's lost from the. But they had to use a handful of different services that allowed them to take money in and then send money back out. And then, but when you looked at it, I mean, I think the biggest complaint was that the gas fees were insane.
Yeah.
It wasn't insane in terms of total money in. It was still like less than what they would have paid, or maybe the same as what if they had just taken Visa, right? Like 2.5%. But gas fees are in that project, when they were making that DAO, it's not an accurate depiction of what was happening, because on large donations, the gas fees were minuscule or nothing. And so it really was the people who are the average donors to Constitution DAO were paying insane gas fees, 50% commission basically to the Ethereum network. And so it's really I think the biggest issue with gas fees is that it's a mostly a regular person problem. When you're moving large amounts, it's not an issue, but for regular transactions. So right now, DAOs are not fully possible on Cardano, right?
It's possible, but someone just needs to make one. So most of the projects, big ones, are still on the testnet. And so they've launched to the point that I myself can go on their website and then try to use for example, their DEX. There's already one called Sunday Swap, and that's not a DAO, but it's already an example that you can actually do something.
It's just a Cardano version of Uniswap, right?
Right. That's right. And there's a lot more to it, but it's for DAOs, again, I don't think there's one yet, but I can see it show up by next year, I think.
You think it's coming? What are the pieces? What are the pieces required? You're gonna need. So you need a DEX to be able to what would be the steps you'd need to go through to be able to have a DAO ecosystem in Cardano?
You don't need a DEX, actually. In fact, Constitution DAO is actually not very complex to make, as in out of all the things that you can make on the blockchain, Constitution DAO is very possible to make, as in right now it's already possible.
What did they need? They needed, so Juicebox was like a third party like escrow service to make sure, like what were the requirements?
Let's see, let me Google up what Juicebox is. I think it's okay, so Juicebox is community funding for people on project. Okay, so even without Juicebox, all you need is a smart contract that when people send the money to you, you don't let it be controlled by one person, as in it's supposed to be consensus.
You would need a multi-sig wallet, right? So the wallet that is holding the accounts, like you start with a 3-person multi-sig wallet or 5-person, whatever. And that's like the essence. So when I'm thinking about DAOs in the different podcasts I've been listening to, they say right now, the most of the concept is that it's just a checking account that everybody's putting their money in, and you can see it, and it's the money is trackable and easily reversible, but the people who control it, that's what it's mostly about
Yeah,
right now.
exactly. So I guess it might be a bit more centralized in the sense that when they found out they didn't win the bid, they had to return the money, right? So even though it's a DAO, it's somewhat centralized in the sense that there's some group of people that's controlling it and giving the money back. So
yeah, well, the concept of a DAO to me is a central. The whole point is to centralize authority and do something. And the L1 chains are the whole idea about decentralization is more about what L1 chains are more decentralized, so that people don't like monkey with the money supply the way like the Fed in the US does or different federal reserves do. But for DAOs, the whole point is like, okay, now we're going to pool our money into this one point of this attack on any project or idea.
right, right. But the best implementation of a DAO is one that even the owner can't even control. So if you launch a DAO, what's supposed to happen is, let's say, for example, in Cardano, actually there's already a DAO. It's not really visible because it helps run something called the Catalyst project.
Okay.
So the point is, if whenever you make a transaction, you actually send part of the fee to this DAO. So it's actually a smart contract that stores all this, all the fees that people pay, and all this money is then decided by the community on what to do. So
so yeah, because so like when I got my ENS tokens, part of the process of receiving them was I had to like vote on a proxy. And there were like different, so you're voting with your wallet, and so your tokens give you your voting share.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I'm still trying to, like, 2022 in my mind is the year of the DAOs, and like we have a handful of like interesting projects that happened this year, and you can tell that there's a flood of like City DAO where they're trying to where you and I were part of, where they were trying to buy land in Wyoming, and or they bought some land, and then Pleaser DAO, I think they bought the Wu-Tang album, and then we've got Constitution DAO that raised a ton of money, like $45 million in like 7 days, and probably they could have raised 100 million if they could have raised whatever they needed to, but to win the auction, but because of the nature of the auction, just some guy came in, and like once you know ahead of time what your competitive auction, what your competitor is going to bid, you just bid like a little bit over and you win. But you can see that like there's a ton of liquidity, and for projects that make sense, DAOs are going to be able to attract, they're going to be able to attract a lot more money. And it's more interesting in this year and next year, I think, compared to 2017, where all these organizations were trying to get money and liquidity using ICOs, which, DAOs to me make more sense than general ICOs in some ways, because the ICO boom and bust, obviously there was a lot more fraud and the ecosystem was less mature, but like a lot of these DAOs, they're sitting on top of L1 chains that are already dealing with all the complications around like maintaining and supporting the chain. And so they're almost just like, they're tokenized on top of an L1 chain, right?
Right.
So that part, they can just focus on, I mean, it kind of is replicating what the real world is like. Like when you're making a company, you don't have to now, if you're Disney, you don't have to have Disney dollars to pay your employees. You just like operate on the US dollar system and then run your business. So that's going to be really interesting, I think.
Yeah. And I think right now with tokenization, the utility of it right now is mostly for, well, right now it's kind of abused with this pump and dump kind of scheme, but it's the utility right now is for governance most of the time. If you want to use, for example, I think there's this project, D-Travel. It's like a decentralized version of Airbnb.
That's what you showed me last month when we met.
Right. I just don't think it makes sense for people to go in a hotel and then pay it using their token, because then they have to go to Binance and buy their token and then use this token.
It's just a janky step in between.
Yeah, it's not necessary. And I think what's supposed to happen is you should use a stable coin, because the user experience is just a lot better. And then the token would just be, it's like a stock or a share of a company. So
yeah,
I don't know why.
I 100% agree with you, which is like right now I was buying the last 2 weeks like domains on Solana. So I'd go to Bonfida, and they're the ones who are running, like, you know, their .eth name is run by ENS, and so Bonfida is like a Solana version of that.
Right.
And but they have an auction system, right? So you can't just like straight up buy it. You have to like bid, and they were the first half of, or the first portion of the names that I bought were on USDC, and it was really relatively straightforward. I have a wallet, I load it with Solana, then I swap out, you know, with like, you know, you put how much slippage you accept, like 1% or whatever, and it swaps out into USDC. So then I have like, okay, $100 in Solana rails, but USDC, which is technically dollars sitting in some account in America, right? And it works great. And then I was just buying it using Solana, USDC on Solana. And then like they were like, I don't know what they were thinking, and I'm not trying to hate on them, but like they were like halfway through, they were like, okay, we're going to change the auction from 7 days to 3.5 days. And then we're going to make you have to buy it using our FIDA tokens. And so it's roughly the same amount of money, but like it just adds a layer of complexity in my head, because they say up there, what is the price, and they price the FIDA token between like $8 and $7. And so I know what they're trying to do, which is they're trying to drive demand to their token, right? Yeah. Because they're like, okay, we have this domain name, we've got a lot of customers, but then it just adds opacity to my like price calculation. I don't really know exactly in dollar terms how much am I paying for any one domain. I have a rough sense, but it's my understanding about what I'm paying is up and down plus minus 15%, because my mind can't mentally track, you know, so it just adds complexity. So I also don't know what is the ultimate point of me buying FIDA tokens. And so like, I'm assuming they're like governance tokens, but governance tokens on Uniswap and all these other organizations, it only, like, that's very different than stock owner shareholder ownership, because when your organization has a profit, they send the dividends to the stockholder. So my stock is voting to protect its economic rights. Whereas if you're just having a governance token, it doesn't, but without economic rights associated, like I'm participating in this system for the money associated with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And actually, so you mentioned like getting dividends, right? You can get dividends by using these governance tokens if you stake their tokens. So for example, with SushiSwap, if you stake SushiSwap into this, I think specific wallet or something, you can get a piece of whatever transaction when somebody makes a transaction. So it's quite small. I don't know how many percent you get, but that's the dividend version of the crypto world, which is you have to stake it.
You have to stake it to get the profit. But like, isn't, my understanding was like Uniswap, so you could stake Uniswap, right? But that is different. So staking is different than dividends, right? Because dividends is, I own Tesla shares, right? Or I own Apple shares. This is more accurate. I own Apple shares. I don't have to loan my shares to a short seller or stake it into a liquidity pool. I can just own it, and they sell their iPhones, and then they cut me a check for 2.5%. Their cash pile is still growing, but they're cutting me a check for 2.5%, or whatever the dividend yield is. And and then like, so staking to me is there's added risk when you put it in a staking pool. That's so like, I don't 100% understand what the risks are. Maybe you can tell me, and let's not talk about hacking risks, but what is, tell me.
So in Ethereum, this happened recently, I think, where there's this stake pool that forgot or lost the private keys.
Okay.
And so as a result, all the money being staked, all the tokens being staked, it's just gone. As in, you can't access it.
It's
so
burned.
Yeah. And staking works differently in Ethereum versus Cardano. So if we talk about staking in Cardano, it's actually completely different. And I think it's also different in Solana as well.
Can you explain what the difference is?
So staking in Ethereum is literally you actually sending that token and putting it in a centralized entity. Okay. So the other person—
it's leaving your wallet.
Right. It's leaving your wallet. Now, I think in Solana, you need to have a special wallet for staking. But the point is you still have control over that wallet. So you don't send the money to somebody else's wallet. In Cardano,
so in the Solana wallet, you are it's like you're sending something out, but you are keeping one hand on the branch, and they have the other. Like, they can't pull it from you. Like,
right.
You still control it, and you could pull it back at any time.
Yep.
Like, not your coin, not your keys, not your coin is still in the Solana system. You still control the coin.
Yeah.
But in Ethereum, you're sending your coin out.
Yes.
And they're just registering that this coin belongs to this wallet. And you're hoping that you're just trusting that when your timing is over, they're going to send it back.
Sending it back, I think it's protected by the smart contract. But if they lose the private key to this wallet that they have, then they're screwed.
So they can't steal it, but they can lose it.
They can lose it.
They can't take it and then reroute it to their personal wallets and steal your money, but they can still lose the key to the wallet, and then they can burn your thing, which cannot happen in Solana, right?
Right. And it's the same with Cardano, as in Cardano, you can't when you take your tokens, you don't send it. In fact, we use the same wallet, so there's no additional wallet for staking. So it's
okay.
When I read this, it's kind of confusing, but you're actually just delegating your stake, as in you're just referencing how much is being staked instead of actually sending how much is being into a specific wallet.
Then what is the risk associated with staking in Cardano and Solana? Like, I totally understand the risk associated. I understand at least one of the big risks in Ethereum, which is like, I'm sending my stuff out and then I have to, and it's, to me, it's a much higher risk than people realize, because there's no, in the American system, staking would be like putting your money in a savings account or a high yield CD. And the the bank is then lending that money out to companies, and they're giving you a higher interest rate, right? But then, so then you've like guaranteed them in the contract of the CD that you're gonna not pull your money from the CD for 6 months or 1 year, and the longer you leave it in, the higher the rate. But if the bank fails, we have FDIC insurance that will protect me. So it's essentially zero risk to put it in a savings account. But in the current state of crypto world, there's no higher entity. You're just trusting that organization when you stake your money. There's nobody to turn to. So
for Cardano and Solana, the risk is pretty much almost zero. Like, I can't think of anything that would harm someone's tokens, or because it's still on their wallet.
You still own it. Okay.
Yeah, it never leaves their wallet. So yeah, it's very different. And if you ask me, like, could Solana and Cardano implement something like what staking in Ethereum is? Absolutely. Like, you could send your tokens to someone and trust that person, but that would go against decentralization. So that's why Cardano staking and Solana staking is also something that kind of learns from what Ethereum's mistakes.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I ultimately would probably prefer a world where the user has the choice, and that everything that you can, like in the Cardano world or Solana world or wherever, if you want to get a higher yield thing and then you have to send your tokens out, but like more risk, more reward kind of situation, then I would be fine with that. But I do like the fact that, I still don't really understand staking, and maybe you can explain to me ETH 2.0 and what Cardano is doing and what Solana is doing. Like with Solana and Ethereum, they're in a proof of stake world. You have to own 32 Ethereum. Mm-hmm. And then to be able to mine or validate Ethereum, you need to have a certain amount of the underlying coins. And I think with Solana, it's roughly the same. It ends up in dollar terms, it might be like $100,000 worth of Solana or something.
I think for Solana, there's no initial amount, I think. Correct me if
you
I'm
have
wrong.
To have some Solana, and the way they, but yes. The biggest barrier appears to be the hardware and bandwidth costs are like very high, because they have like super high performance requirements.
Oh, right. I see. You need 45,000 SOL to run a validator for Solana.
Which in dollar terms, that's a lot. What is it? It's 200 SOL or something like that right now. I think
the price is about $170, $180 times 45,000. That's a lot. Yeah.
So that's $8 million worth of Solana. So you have to be a medium-sized business. Like you can't be like, it's like you have to be able to buy a hotel in Bali at least.
Oh, wait, sorry.
I think 45,000 might be.
Let me correct that. There's no minimum. So I was right. There's no minimum amount to run a validator, but to actually cover the costs or the machines you need, because it's very high speed, right? It's about this is from one person, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. It's about $1.5 million. If you want to cover the cost yourself, stake at least 4,500 SOL on your own validator. Okay.
Yeah, that's about right. That's the number I heard, which is 4,500 times let's say 180. Right. So that's about $800,000 worth of SOL, which I think you can still there's these like staking pools or entities where you can get the hardware if you just need the hardware, and then you can kind of share the pool of
like a mining pool. Yeah. So I guess that's I think.
And there's a DAO that just became popular. I think it's called Monk DAO on Solana, where it's did you hear about this?
Yeah, I think I saw you like it on Twitter.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And so I think, there's so much to cover. Like I'm like an inch deep on all this, like all these topics, because it's like hard to just like go deep into them. But with Monk Pool, I think what they did was they created a DAO to become a validator. And so I don't know if in that DAO they control. I'm sure that they are probably going to buy hardware, and then they're going to pool, have enough Solana. But that's pretty interesting right there.
Yeah, I think for Cardano, I think minimum validator stake. I don't think there's a minimum, but the more ADA you have, the more likely you're going to be selected to process the next block, which means you're more likely to get rewarded if you do.
So you have an advantage by and I was saying, I saw a Twitter thread that actually was saying that leads the way that something like that is constructed, where if you have economies of scale, like the more ADA you have, the more rewards you get. What that does, and I don't know if they were talking specifically about ADA or if this was Ethereum as well, but what that ends up doing is it creates an incentive to get these huge validators. And so that's a negative against decentralization. because
it's happening. And so proof of stake, this is one of the downsides actually, and it's also the case in Ethereum. It's also the case in Solana, but I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what Solana and Ethereum are doing to mitigate this. But in Cardano, there's something called a pool saturation. So the bigger the pool, the lower the rewards. So this incentivizes people to move out of that pool to decentralized, to become more decentralized.
Oh, that fixes the problem, because that was something that I was noticing. I was like, I saw this guy's there was like a debate, a very interesting debate that wasn't ad hominem attack. They were just debating Ethereum versus Solana decentralization, and they were going through the list. And I reached out to someone who was explaining, one of the big things about like newer L1 chains like Cardano, Polkadot, Solana is like, oh, everybody's like, oh, well, they're less decentralized than Ethereum. And that's obviously going to be the case in every new chain when it starts out, because by default, it's like saying to a baby, well, you're more dependent on your mom than this like 10-year-old. And it's like, well, yeah, that there's like a process for them to decentralize. Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, coming from more in the Cardano background, it's also the case. Like I read some people still referencing articles from 2019 that Cardano is not decentralized. And that's true, because in 2019, Cardano is still very federated. So the pools, the validators that run, they're mostly done by IOHK. And then over time, like now, I think it's about 99.7% of these validators are not federated. So it becomes more decentralized over time.
Are there miners and sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. That's it.
Are there miners and validators in the Southeast Asia market? I'm assuming Singapore is dominating this area, but
there are Indonesian Cardano validators.
How many are there? Can you see on the is it like visible on their map?
I think I can look it up, but I've only seen about 3. In fact, one of the stake pool delegators that run it, he actually joins the first batch of the Cardano developer program.
Do you know him?
I don't. I haven't actually talked to him. But one thing that's really cool is in the Philippines, there's a bank that runs a Cardano validator node. So
that's super interesting.
It's called Union Bank, and I actually met their, I think it's either CTO or CPO back when I was in the Philippines. Like they're crazy. They're very innovative, but they burned so much money trying to create these new concepts. But I think they really vibe with Cardano and what it's trying to do. So I think next year, you said next year is going to be the year of the DAOs, right? I think next year, hopefully for Cardano, it would be the year of RealFi, like DeFi connect to RealFi. So
explain what decentralized finance is right now. Mostly Ethereum based system where people, if the money is Ethereum, then all these financial concepts were being rebuilt on top of Ethereum. So that was last year's DeFi summer. So I haven't heard RealFi before. I've heard TradFi before, which is traditional finance.
So
what's RealFi?
So it just means real finance, but it's
what's the difference between DeFi, TradFi, traditional finance like banks, and RealFi?
So what they're trying to get across is you can have all these fancy DEXs on Ethereum, on Cardano, but if you're on your phone, can you go from fiat to interacting with a blockchain? And how relevant is DeFi in your everyday life? Like it's not right now, it's not very relevant. So if you want to buy insurance, for example, you're not going to use DeFi, at least for now, because it's you have to buy the Ethereum token, and you have to pay gas, and then you have to use your wallet and then buy from there. But imagine if you you can make it more relevant to the average person. And so the goal is make it more down to earth. Does that make sense?
So you're talking about real products that people can use
Yes.
to replace the financial instruments that they're using now in the traditional finance world. So you use an example of insurance, right?
Yeah, or integrated. So it has to feel so seamless. Like,
oh yeah. The user experience right now in crypto is janky as hell. Like I literally have a list of tokens that I want to buy. And the only reason I can't buy them is because it's so hard to. So like, you know, I've got to track all these different exchanges, right? And then also Americans are massively discriminated against because like the US system is putting so many rules on all these crypto people. The crypto people are like, hey, guess what, Americans, you're only 5% of the world. F off. We're not going to serve your customers, and we're just literally going to deny if you're American, you can't use it. So like, instead of us imposing rules on the crypto world, it's just getting us discriminated against. We're like North Koreans at this point. It's like the most frustrating thing in the world.
Like, just to add on to that, like one of this land sale that I participated on this game, there's like terms and agreement says you're not a US citizen.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't think the effing US government understands what they're doing to us when they're turning us, instead of us sanctioning all these countries in the world, the whole world is now turning on us and sanctioning the hell out of us. And so I'm like, dude, this is insane. So like even these top US entities that are like, you know, FTX or whatever, it's Americans running it, but they're sitting there in the Cayman Islands. And then like literally if you try to use them, they have like ftx.us, which is for Americans, which has like nothing. And FTX for everybody else, which is like great. And even Coinbase 2 days ago, they were like, okay, the SEC is blocking us, dragging their feet on allowing us to do staking pools and like basically like savings accounts or whatever. Like if you have, you know, Ethereum or whatever in your Coinbase account, then you can just like earn money and they'll run the staking pool or whatever for you or whatever. Or I get something like that with Cardano because I used eToro, right? And so they just, I didn't even sign up for it. I just kept getting these emails. It was like, oh, you've earned X amount of like Cardano. And I was like, what the hell? Is somebody like hacked my thing? And then I realized that they were auto staking my thing and then telling me the rewards. And eToro is also going to start at the end of this year in like 2 weeks. Delisting Americans, so you can keep it, but you can't buy more. And I assume they're going to take me out of the staking pools. But to bring it back to the point, which is it is very janky and difficult. Like I'm trying to buy Arweave, right? Like there's Filecoin, which the Winklevi twins have funded that. It's like you can buy it on like, you know, Gemini or whatever. Probably also Coinbase, I think, and a bunch of places. And then there's Arweave, which is being integrated into like the Solana ecosystem things. And so I'm right now, this last several months, I've been more focused on the Solana ecosystem. So I want to buy some art tokens. So the way I do it is, first of all, you can't even just go into your like Phantom wallet to just like get it and swap it. It's like not available. So what do you have to do? You have to go to their like .org site. Then you have to create an R wallet, right? Which is like, it's like there's no wallet for it. So then you have to download their wallet. Then you have to create like a plugin in your browser. Then you have to tweet out. You have to tweet out on your personal Twitter or whatever, like your wallet address, and then they'll send you. They'll send you like, you know, like a few pennies worth of like R tokens, like 0.2 R tokens. Now, okay, so now I have this like tiny amount of Arweave tokens. I don't know how to. I'm like, it was literally taking me hours to try and figure out like how the hell do I get. You know, I want to put some money behind this thing, because if it has a chance of taking on the cloud providers, right? It totally makes sense to me cloud is still only like 10 or 20% market penetration for storage and applications and things. Like if crypto never existed, cloud still has another 5x to go from where they are to like mature market, right? Cloud is still growing like crazy high rates, like between 30 and 50% compounded annually on big numbers now, right?
Yeah.
But now you and I were chatting about this 6 months ago, which is like, Filecoin, and until recently I heard about Arweave a couple months ago, which I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like edge storage. And then if they figure out a way to like let people store on the edge, like that's gonna, in my mind, it makes sense that it would capture some percentage of the global cloud market, right? It's a different type of edge cloud. So I'm like trying to buy this thing. And so I'm like, okay, I don't even fully understand what do I get with these Arweave tokens, but I know I want to participate in it. And I know like this is the way to like, some value is going to accrue to this if it takes off. So I'm trying to figure out how to buy it. So like the issue right now is that everything is janky as hell and super hard to get into your possession, honestly. Like, so I know that once the friction to just buy into these things comes down, demand is probably 10x, 100x, 1000x what it is.
Totally. Yeah. And, I think the blockchain that wins is the one that the user won't even notice they're using it, because it's got to be that integrated with again, RealFi, which is, so right now, unfortunately, you have to tap into the banks because you have to use fiat, but you got
on-ramp fiat into one type of crypto. Like the banks are the on-ramp into the crypto world.
Right. So right now, the way it's supposed to work is if you pay using fiat, you don't need to care what happens. All you need to know is it's just interacting with the smart contract. So I think if I'm a programmer here, I'm trying to make it, what happens is every time you pay using fiat, you're actually converting it to a stable coin. And then that stable coin is then the one that's being processed in the smart contract. And then let's say if it's like an insurance thing, then when you claim, you get a payout, then the stable coin is converted back to fiat, something like that. But the user doesn't need to care. So yeah, that's, I think, like I said, the winner should be the winner of all blockchains is the one that they don't even realize they're using one.
Yeah, I mean, what I've heard is the analogy is that like fintech is the excuse me, fintech is the front end, and blockchain crypto is in the back end, and like the rails, like everything that we use, like PayPal and Square and whatever apps that we've been using, they're just like surface wrappers. And what was still happening behind the scenes, and more than anybody because you actually work in that domain, is it's just behind the scenes is still like horse and buggy, like very slow moving. And what they're doing is creating the illusion that it's moving fast when it's not actually. They're crediting your thing, but it's not actually moving. But crypto is really moving. And so you can say, and here's the thing where the risk starts to build up in the system. And this happened with GameStop and all these other things, which was the latency. The more the latency, the more the risk will build up in that gap where it's not actually transferring. And so what ended up happening was normally 2 days for settlement on the US stock market. It's been around since whatever, 50 years like that. Fintech wrappers have come in and shown like, okay, we executed your trade right now and then we're crediting your account right now. Normally they're not going to have 1,000 trades on that same stock, and then they have to keep recrediting. And then what happens is like in the delay of the actual settlement, you have all this risk that built up. Now, in the faster, the tighter the latency, like the shorter the latency, the less gaps there are for this risk to build up.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, with Bitcoin, it's as a settlement layer, it still kind of makes sense. How long is the gap? Like a few minutes for settlement?
What I do know is the block time is about 10 minutes. So, but if you use Lightning, then it's quite almost instant.
But Lightning is just is similar to the fintech thing, which is it's still it's still not the real settlement layer, right?
Right.
So it's just like a Visa thing on top, kind of. But yeah, so then the faster, and that's kind of why I was for now I'm still quite bullish on the Solana ecosystem. Although I believe that I think there's going to be a lot of winners because there's so many use cases for different crypto things. Yeah. And so I'm still very bullish on Cardano in one direction, which is I think that they may end up becoming much stronger in non-financial or like much more high, because it's the most secure is the way it sounded like to me. Like so
it's going in a different direction, which is the direction that I really want as well, which is where we are building, or people are building DEXs, stuff like that. But if you look at the other projects, there's one called Impawa. I don't know if I can share this right now, but it's essentially if you want to build a house, you can get a loan, and this loan is based on the Cardano blockchain, or at least powered by the Cardano blockchain.
But here's the thing: if you take a loan and there's the property itself is collateral, right? Like in America, you take a mortgage. If you don't pay your mortgage, then the bank will seize the house as collateral, right? They'll seize the land and the material of the house. So in the crypto world, there's no guns and boots and lawyers associated with crypto things yet. So you need like, and I think Balaji was talking about this, and Chainlink and some of these other people were talking about it, which is you need oracles to come that are bridging real world realities and translating that into crypto realities.
Yeah. And as a programmer, smart contracts do need to use oracles. Like I've written like a basic flood insurance platform, and one of the first things I had to do was to connect it in Oracle, because otherwise, and the cool thing about oracles is you need to connect it to multiple oracles, because there's a way that you can rate the trustworthiness of these oracles, and if they're presenting the right data, then you get like a higher trust rating, and then if you're presenting the wrong data, then we take that data with more grain of salt.
Wait, so right now one of the projects you're working on is a ticket insurance project?
That's one of the ones that I had to complete for my Udacity blockchain developer course.
Oh, that's super interesting, because it's like ticket insurance is easy. It's an easy, like travel is almost always, like when the internet first came out, some of the best like killer blockbuster applications were like just e-tickets, like the idea that you didn't have to call up a travel agent to book a ticket. And it's still, and so like you can see, I'm positive that like with like Expedia and some of these agencies that like they'll sell you tickets, they're adding this like flight insurance thing to it, and it's like $30 or whatever. And most of the time, even if you bought it and needed it, to just get reimbursed on it, it's so hard and complicated that they must be making so much money, because they're like, yeah, we'll sell the insurance, and then when they come to collect, good luck trying to get your money.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've heard this, but there's something called Etherisc, and that's a really good example of insurance on the blockchain. And I don't know if you this, or I just sent you the link on the chat. So with
Etherisc, okay.
Yeah. It works really, it works with an insurance company, but the cool thing is it's automated. So every time like the flight gets delayed, it can check the data that the flight's delayed. The oracles are the ones that provide that data, and then after that, it automatically gives out the payout. So
oh, really? Okay. And so you have rankings on like how much certain smart contracts or insurance products are actually doing what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's almost, it might be some sort of like automated version of like Uber 5-star or Airbnb 5-star with reviews, but like a more digital automated version of that.
Right.
Okay, now with our limited time left, I really want to get into, if you can walk me through the Cardano ecosystem from the consumer perspective, what wallets are available for Cardano users?
So the most popular one is called Yoroi, and there's an app for that. Like you can go to the App Store.
And it's also in the browser?
Yeah, there's a Chrome extension, and there are other wallets as well. But right now, Yoroi is actually the one made by sort of made by the Cardano team themselves.
Okay.
And there is, I think for the ones with the app, I think it's still quite limited. There's CC Wallet, but I haven't used it. There's Nami Wallet, which is on the browser.
Okay.
And
so Yoroi is both. Here is the biggest thing for me is like if you're only building your wallet through the iOS or Android ecosystem, then all the power is still at Apple's hands, which is if the only way your customers can get through to you is Apple could just delete your app or block it or whatever,
yeah, that's one
then you're screwed. But
yeah.
I have no problem with iOS apps like Phantom right now. They have a web app. They have like a browser extension, which is the wallet.
Yeah.
Which you can then also, they're testing the iOS version. And so it'll be the same wallet that you can come in and out of from your phone. And then that makes perfect sense to me because it's like, okay, great. Like the phones are the thing that we want to use to do most of our things anyways, most of our commerce. The amount of people on the planet who have laptops is like 1/10 the amount of people have iPhones or whatever, smartphones. Right. And so, but if you just get back into Web 2.0 control where like Apple can just kill your company or your entity, then you have no trust. And
yeah. That's obviously one of the biggest problems with the App Store right now, because for payments, Apple is still controlling.
I mean, ridiculous. They're ridiculous.
Like
the 30% commission.
Right. So that's a bit interesting. Like, I don't know how they feel about crypto payments. Like, is that going to be something they're going to regulate? And right now they haven't actually, but I don't know, because these are real people that are actually deciding when an app can be released and not, or when an app can be updated. And if they suddenly change their mind, they're like, okay, we're not gonna...
I think ultimately Apple is going, I don't know about the App Store and how much control they'll be able to continue to exert, but probably in the short and medium term, their fees are going to come down to 15%, which is like what they, from 30 that they charge a lot of the companies. And then, but even more long term, I don't think like Apple's going to be able to, I think they're just going to have to like make their margins on their hardware, which people are more than willing to do. You and me are like huge Apple fanboys. We just buy everything. And like, so you can take your 40% margin at the hardware end and then F off for the rest of my, like, I want to live my life. Like I didn't sign up for Tim Cook to run my personal life. So
yeah. But Apple's going to more into like services actually. So hardware is more like the thing that gets you to stick in their ecosystem. So that's why, but that's, I think, for another topic.
Yeah. And so, okay, so you've got your Cardano wallet, and so composability is a big thing. Once you're in any kind of top 100 crypto system, you can then eventually move it. You might have to do 2 steps, but you can move it from A to B. Like you could have Fida coin, which is a small token sitting on top of Solana. You can't directly convert that into Bitcoin, but what you would do is then swap that into Solana and then swap Solana into Bitcoin, or swap it into USDC and then swap that. Like there's 2 steps. You're always like at least 2 steps away from any other coin once you're in crypto world.
Yeah. So you're mentioning bridges essentially, and there's now a bridge on the testnet that connects the Solana, Cardano, and Ethereum.
Who's testnet?
So I think it's still on the Cardano testnet, or maybe their own testnet. It's called Milko Media, I think. Sorry, I
wasn't talking about bridges. I was talking about DEXs. Like,
so because with these DEXs,
Go ahead.
these blockchains they're not interacting with each other. So if you want to swap Solana with ADA, you can wrap Solana and show it up on the Cardano blockchain, or you can wrap ADA and show it on the Ethereum blockchain, for example, which you already can.
So wait, so if I have Solana in my Solana wallet,
Yeah,
I can't exchange that for Ethereum?
you can, but
you'd have to go through a centralized exchange.
No, this is a decentralized exchange. So Milk Media is just another layer two. So that functions as a bridge.
Like, I'm not talking about wrapped Ethereum. Like, I don't want wrapped Ethereum sitting on my Phantom wallet. Let's say I have a MetaMask wallet and a Solana wallet. I have one Sol in my Phantom wallet, and I have a MetaMask wallet. How would I get that Solana into Ethereum?
You can't. You have to wrap it.
No, but then you can do it via Coinbase, right? Like, you could send it into Coinbase and then they swap it.
No. Inside it, those are completely different things. So in Coinbase, you can create any trading pair you want because they're not limited to the blockchain. So you don't.
Oh, they're not actually swapping it. They're just crediting me.
Yes.
They're crediting me and they're keeping. Oh, that's the big difference. Because
Solana uses a different token standard. Ethereum uses ERC20. Cardano uses something that completely is not compatible with Ethereum.
So at the centralized exchanges is where you get the real swap, but they're not actually converting or morphing. You're not morphing an elephant into a bird. They're just saying, okay, we're going to credit you 10 birds equals 1 elephant. And now you have, so if I want to own the real coin, you can do it at the centralized exchanges, but not in a DEX.
You can't do it in a DEX. That's right.
This is a huge difference, a huge advantage for centralized exchanges over DEXs, because the centralized exchange can credit you a real coin.
Yeah, it's a pain because again, you have to use bridges and then you have to pay the fees. If you use Ethereum, then the fees would be annoying. But,
okay, now I cut you off because I do think it was important to find the difference. Let's go back to bridges, what you were telling me, and wrapping and bridges.
Yeah, so if you want to, let's say, port ADA into Ethereum right now, as of now, you have to wrap that ADA, as in you need to create a token called like wrapped ADA, for example. And how it works is you have to send that ADA to a smart contract, and then that ADA will be locked there.
Smart contract eats the ADA,
right?
Like puts it inside of it.
For one ADA, you get one wrapped ADA, something like that.
Okay.
So that's with wrapped ADA. You can actually do it with Bitcoin. So there's no wrapped.
Yeah, I've seen wrapped Bitcoin, wrapped like right now in Phantom. I see. I was trying to get Audius, and Audius's token is like split between Solana and Ethereum, where their governance token is on Ethereum, and their like transactions are on Solana, and they're like, and so if you want the governance token, you can only get it wrapped in Phantom or whatever.
Yep, that's right.
But how trustworthy is a wrapped thing versus the
that's the thing. I don't know. I actually don't know how it works or how centralized it is. But right now, here's another alternative. So Cardano has, there's a company called SingularityNet that's launching a converter. So you can convert one ADA token to an ERC20 token, or you can do it vice versa.
Really converting it?
Not really, still no. So you
what are they doing then?
It's again, you're just parking the token into a smart contract.
Oh, it's just wrapping it. Then why'd you mention this company? What are they doing that's special?
Yeah, so what's special is just it's a bridge between Cardano and Ethereum, which right now I don't think exists yet. Yeah.
Oh, there's no bridge. Like, so I know Solana has this thing called Wormhole, and I think that's their bridge between the Ethereum world and the Solana world. This is the most fascinating part about like how, this whole idea about the metaverse was, I don't know if I was talking with you, but I think I was talking with Kelly about this, which was that, like, if you have a NFT in Grand Theft Auto, right? And then you try to go and take your identity in Grand Theft Auto and you go into Minecraft, and the graphics and stuff in Minecraft and Grand Theft Auto are very different, right?
Yep.
So what Minecraft would have to do is say, okay, anything coming from this world, you're going to now have to exist in our world of physics. So they'll have to write code to like bridge from this world of Grand Theft Auto, and they'd have to specifically build individual bridges and say, this is the code that we identify. So if your NFT is like this, we would identify it like this in our world, and this is the physics of our world.
Right. I don't know about bridging NFTs, because NFTs should be unique. There shouldn't be two of it. But if you're saying there's a bridge, what's actually happening is that means there will be two NFTs that exist.
No, this is super interesting. Maybe I'm misusing the term, but like the idea is, go ahead.
You want the NFTs to morph from one blockchain to another, or like,
but generally, okay, it'll generally keep it's going to look different. Like the same way, right. If I take you and I put you on Mars, or on the moon, it's still you, but you're going to be different, right? Like,
right. There's no blockchain that's compatible to do that right now. As in, so blockchains, again, they're just code. And right now the code is just
isn't that composability is the idea that the whole idea with composability is that once you're in
interoperability, sorry.
I think the idea is, I thought with composability is that you can, if you exist, once you're in a crypto universe, especially if it's a big enough one, let's say you're in Cardano or Solana or Ethereum or even Bitcoin, right? You can then move it from one. So like an NFT is a smart contract, right? Or is that
Ethereum is a smart contract. In Cardano, it's not.
Oh, explain the difference here. This is so interesting.
So this is why Cardano got a lot of FUD as well. People are saying like you can't make NFTs because you don't have smart contracts. You can, because it's different. So in Ethereum, you have Ethereum as the cryptocurrency, and then you have tokens like Matic is a token
that sits on top,
right? And then you have NFTs, which is another token standard, and also sits on top. Now in Cardano, they made it a lot more flat. So there's ADA, and beside ADA is any other native token. So the goal of that, or the benefits of having that is, I don't know if you've used token swaps before in Ethereum, but you literally have to pay to agree to use a smart contract, or like you have to give permission, and that's
you have to register down into. This was the thing that you and I were talking about with Matic sitting on top of Ethereum. You can do whatever you want in the Matic system, but every time you wanted to register into the Ethereum system, record it into the Ethereum mainnet, it's like you're paying. Is that what you mean? Or
no.
Go ahead.
So if you want to swap a token in Ethereum, for example, you actually have to allow or give permission. And the reason why is because you're interacting with a smart contract. And in order to interact with a smart contract, there is that additional step to grant permission to it. I don't really know why you have to grant permission, but you actually have to pay the gas fee to allow this permission to happen. Now, Cardano doesn't want any of that. So if you want to interact with one token or the other, it should be quite the same. So that's why. But
so if you have a Cardano-based token, it's not this was the whole debate about what's a side chain and what's an L2 and all of that. And I'm still trying to like really wrap my head around it. So is Cardano's system setting everything up as a side chain?
Setting everything up as a side chain.
Like if you have a token on Cardano, you're saying it's parallel to it, not on top of it.
What I'm saying is, if you have Ethereum and you have the tokens that sit on top of it,
Yeah.
Cardano, it's not sitting on top of it. It's just next to it. It's the same level.
Okay. And so you don't need to pay fees into Cardano to record anything inside its own token.
I have to like share screen something, but I don't have it right now. It's just, you have to, it's the way the tokens work. If you want to interact with a smart contract, you need to enable it. You need to give permission. And when you want to give it permission, you're actually submitting something to the blockchain. So you have to pay.
Okay.
Now, there's no permission layer like that. So it's not another layer or something, but it's an additional step. And I think you have to really use Ethereum to know this.
To conceptualize it. Maybe the next time you can show us what that looks like.
Yeah.
Now to return back to the difference between NFTs and Ethereum and NFTs and Cardano, NFTs and Ethereum are smart contracts, right? Yep. And part of the reason, if I'm understanding correctly, that like the things that the NFTs that really took off early were these ugly pixelated crypto punks and all that, was that like the fewer pixels, the less the fees were associated with the image. And so that's why all these ugly ass pixel, I'm not trying to be a hater, but like, you're not getting like super sophisticated art. And that's part of the reason why it came out with this pixelated art stuff was as a way to like limit gas fees, if I'm understanding correctly. So, or maybe not, but I thought it was associated with like the more bits, or like the more data associated with the image, the more expensive it was to record it.
Yeah, I think so. That would make sense, because 1 byte, per byte have to pay gas. Yeah,
and so that's why they use the like simple pixelated things. What does an NFT look like? What is the utility? What is the big difference with a Cardano NFT compared to a Ethereum one?
So like you said, NFTs and Ethereum's smart contract, and I just googled up the one in Cardano. So imagine there's Matic in Cardano. So Matic would sit right next to ADA. It would be the same. It would be a native asset. An NFT, turns out, is also a native asset,
like a token.
Yes. So it sits next to it. Like it's considered the same thing as ADA. Okay. So that's why you don't need to mint. You don't need smart contracts to mint NFTs in Cardano. Okay.
And what do you think is the reason why NFTs in Cardano, what are the advantages of having an NFT in Cardano, like the way you said? What from the user perspective, what's the advantage? I'll just to give you a parallel, NFTs on Solana are blowing up like crazy because it's because these are small dollar things that people are doing. Okay, even if it's like not super small dollar, like it's a $50 NFT or $100, that's a really expensive, like think about how much you spend on a video game. It's like on a PS4, PS5 video game or whatever, you're spending $50-$60, and just to mint one NFT could be so with gas fees on Ethereum, it's insane. And so you can see everybody's now, all the artists who are like, okay, well, I want to mint 1,000 or 500 of these images that I worked on, and I don't want to pay $50,000 in gas fees or whatever. So so it's very smooth, slick, and at least in the short term, it is just a much better user experience compared to Ethereum doing NFTs on Solana. Now, what would be, we've got these two to compare to. What is the Cardano NFT experience and the difference for, because I know it's early days, so I don't want to like shit on it just because it hasn't like taken off yet.
Yeah, actually it has taken off, and NFTs in Cardano is right, like the biggest thing right now, because
that's driving the ecosystem.
Yeah, and like with GameFi, stuff like that. So the land that I bought, and they just did a teaser on what the 3D world is going to look like, actually. But going back to NFTs, because it's a native asset, it's a lot easier to generate NFTs. So you can generate a receipt, a transaction receipt, as an NFT. And so this just means like NFTs are just, they're not limited to art or to games, but they're also
it's like a sheet of paper. Like that's what Chris Dixon was saying, that like this is what the analogy in my head is he was like, it's a primitive building block for the internet. And that's why I was thinking it's more akin to a sheet of paper. You can print, or you can roll a receipt, which is so insignificant to us in these days that we just grab our receipts and just throw them away immediately, right? Yeah. Like when you go to a supermarket or whatever, they print a receipt and you're like, okay, just throw it. That's how like little we care about it and how cheap they've gotten, right? Paper. Yeah. Whereas, several hundred years ago, like a piece of paper was like, you could buy a castle because it was so special, right? So like you're saying, you could issue a receipt, and you bought into that, is it like a Dreamland style game?
So I think it's closest to Decentralized.
Decentralized, okay. Yeah. And yeah, sorry, that's what I meant to say. I think Dreamland is like a park here in Bali.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you, what was the steps you took? So you got your wallet. What is the user experience to buy NFTs in this Decentralized style game?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to Solana's actually, because NFTs are pretty much, for art, it's pretty much NFTs as well. So there are two ways. You do it via like a traditional website, or you can do it using a smart contract, as in it's still a website, but the website is powered by the smart contract. So if you use a smart contract, then if you buy something, it'll immediately send it to you. Or if you
sends it to your wallet.
Yes, send it to your wallet. And if you use the more traditional one, they have like a 24-hour waiting period. So it's like a middleman. So you send out the tokens, and then if the person has 24 hours to send the asset or the NFT to you, and then once they do, you can claim that you've received it, and then the money will be sent to the owner, or the owner of the NFT.
So if you don't click that I received it, then it's reversed. The NFT goes back and your money goes back. So it's like an escrow account.
So I think it's no, I think if you send the NFT, the wallet would be able to detect that the asset has been sent. So you don't actually have to click like receive, but there is like a waiting period, as in there's a limit on how long a block can last or a transaction can last on the blockchain. If the transaction is just floating and it hasn't been confirmed, then it's gonna be reverted. I think it's
canceled. Oh, it's like reverted to its original state as if it never happened. Yeah. So like when I was buying NFTs on Bonfida, like I bid, let's say 3 FIDA coins for this, let's say my name.sol, right? And if someone else bids above me, it doesn't automatically send me my money back for me to bid again. I have to then I have to request a refund, because it's showing that my bid is not winning. And so you click it and it refunds your money. You go through the whole thing. It sends the coins back to your wallet, and then you rebid again and send it back. So it's not like it's automatically sent back in the NFT on Bonfida. So yeah, that's the weird thing about so that's kind of like the user experience on ADA, especially for NFTs, because NFTs are driving the consumer demand for crypto, because people can understand that, like, the ultimate idea with NFTs right now that makes so much sense to me, that I think the general public will start to understand, is everybody understands YouTube and Instagram, like that these things are monster businesses, right? But they also understand that unlike Netflix, which is paying and taking your money, and they're the ones generating the content, YouTube and Instagram are not generating any content. What they're acting as is like a market middleman, basically, and users are generating the content. Like you and me are recording this, and we will load it up onto Instagram and YouTube, and then other people will look at it. And what YouTube and Instagram are doing are they're inserting ads into the consumer to consumer content. Basically, it's people to people content. They're inserting the ads, and keeping almost all the money. Unless you hit a certain threshold, then like YouTube will give you 50% of the cut of the ads. And I think Instagram gives you like really stingy, like even less. So we all understand in Indonesia and in the world now that like, okay, some woman has 1 million followers and Instagram is making money by inserting ads because people are looking at her images, then they'll send her a check for money, right? Like you got this amount of views. But the real thing is like, she's only getting like 15 or 20%, some small percentage of the revenue that they're generating off of her audience. With NFTs, you can put into the contract like that, it like renegotiates that thing, which is like, I could make an NFT and then in the future, YouTube or Instagram are going to be like wallet skins, or like they're going to be like a UI interface. So the data is in the crypto world, and then for the user to see it, they'll use like a Twitter skin, because I like Twitter's algorithm or I like Instagram's algorithm, and it'll be pulling from the public blockchains. And then the NFT will have a contract, right? So that in the future, like I can get a cut of that money, whether it's payment, whether it's subscription generated or ad generated, I should be able to get a cut, and I'll put in like my NFTs are going to get, 50% of the money, or 75% of the money should come to the artist, right?
Yeah. I think it could work like that. And I think it depends on like whether a programmer actually implements that kind of system. So, but the demand is definitely, it's bringing up to the point that NFTs can be fractalized. So, and you can actually make an NFT.
You mean like 10 people own one? Fractalized? Yeah. What do you mean? Like securitized?
So let's say
without a DAO.
Let's say someone, let's say Banksy wants to upload his, or mint an NFT of one of his paintings. You can actually divide those into like 1,000 pieces, 1,000 NFT pieces.
For one NFT.
Yeah. And then you can own one piece of that painting.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's like owning a security. It's like a more direct way than when Pleaser DAO bought the Wu-Tang album, or when Constitution DAO is trying to buy the Constitution. You own, like with Constitution DAO, you own governance of this DAO, and the DAO owns the Constitution. But with Banksy, he's like, I'm going to directly sell 1,000. I'm going to divide ownership of this in 1,000 pieces. So one guy can buy all 1,000 fractions, or two people can buy 500, or 1,000 people can each buy one, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, the ability to securitize your work is, we understand the whole point of why companies go public is to say, instead of having 2 or 3 VC funders, we want 1,000 or whoever wants to buy into it, and let the market decide what the value of this thing is.
Yeah.
Dude, this is awesome. As always, I have 1,000 more questions, but we've run right into our time limit. I think the next time we should even maybe even explore what's the name of your decentralized style game?
It's called Pavia.
Pavia. And you bought 4 squares of it?
Yep. I wanted to buy more, and so there's a second pre-sale. It sold out in like 3 minutes.
And how much were they at the time of purchase?
I bought it for 40 ADA, which is assuming ADA is about, let's say ADA is $2. Okay, let's say.
Well, that's not bad.
Like $40, right? But now the base price is like at 400, and then there's one that bought it for like 50,000. So it depends.
I honestly think like this is part of my issue with like, I'm really limiting my investments in the metaverse right now, because I know that it's a big thing, and I know being early is better, but also my strategy for most things is I match my investments with my conviction. And right now my conviction is not on any specific thing because I have so little understanding of what I'm doing. So once I start to understand, like Portals was this big NFT that launched on Solana 2 weeks ago, and Kelly was trying to get me to mint, and I was asleep or whatever, and then like they minted for like 1.5 Sol, which is like, you know, $250 or $300, and then they immediately went to 20 Sol like within like half an hour or something.
Wow.
So like a 20x return. So like now he's like, okay, well, you can, the next morning I wake up, I call him and he's like, okay, well, you can buy it. And I'm like, I don't want to spend $2,500. I could buy a brand new like MacBook Pro, you know? So, I mean, c'est la vie, that's the world we live in. To be continued. Excellent chat. And hopefully we'll see you soon. We're going to go surfing or going to the beach.
Nice.
All right, man. Chat soon.
Thanks for having me. All right. Bye.